Every single year, I hop on to Wikipedia, and there's a list on Wikipedia of every single movie coming out uh, in that given year. And I just for the fun of it, I will go and scroll through that entire list every single year and take a look and see uh every single movie that I want to watch in the year. And so all throughout the year, I'll be like, "Oh man, can you believe that, you know, fill in the blank is coming out?" I'll be like, "Oh man, I can't wait for Banshees of Inisherin," and my friends go, What?" Like, never even heard of that movie. What is that movie?" And so I've always wanted to do a video where I listed every single interesting looking movie coming out in the year, and I ultimately every single time I will, like, record this video, and it'll be, like, a few hours long, and then I'm like, "This isn't worth it," and no one's gonna come back and watch this. Um, so, this year I thought, "Hey, what the heck? I'll just do it live." While I go through, uh all of the movies coming out this year, I'll just do a live stream where I talk about all of the ones that I think look interesting, and that recording of that live stream can just live on my channel, and anyone who's interested in it can come along and watch it if they're looking for a good movie for the rest of the year. So yeah, um, we only have like 5 people watching. I don't know how many people are going to show up. It really kind of varies for these things. I've had like hundreds of people show up before, and I've had like 2 people show up before. So we shall see. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and kick things off. So, starting off with January, we have coming out this weekend Megan, which is a movie produced by James Wan. It's a horror movie about a giant, like AI controlled doll. It looks I don't know, it looks very weird, very cheesy. But if you are game for a really cheesy horror movie, then just really bonkers, campy, off the wall, then this might be your deal. Let's see, what else do we have coming out? There's a movie called House Party, which I've never heard of. Looks like it's like a comedy movie. If that sounds interesting to you, there you go. It's coming out January 13th. January 20, oh, also January 13th. We have one of the most lazily titled movies I have ever come across. It's an American thriller called Plane, and it's about, catch this, a plane that crashes on an island, and all of the people who are on the plane get kidnapped. And Gerard Butler, the captain of the plane, goes and has to save them. It's the worst title they possibly could have gone with, but I don't know. I'm a little interested just because it really only because it's got Mike Coulter in it, who played Luke Cage, and I've been wanting to see him in more stuff. The following weekend, January 20th, we have Missing. This is a movie that, from the sound of it, I can't tell if it's connected to or if it's just a similar idea to the 2018 movie Searching, which is a movie with John Cho where he's like searching for his daughter, and it takes place entirely on his desktop. This seems to be the same sort of thing, uh, and it follows a teenage girl this time, and I think it all takes place on her phone. And it's the teenage girl is played by Storm Reed, um, who she's been in a lot of stuff recently. She was the daughter in Invisible Man, and also played a daughter in Suicide Squad. She's on Euphoria. Very, very talented actress. So that looks like it could be interesting. I don't know if it's by the same filmmakers or not. Uh, Continuing, we have The Son, which is a movie made by the same guy who made The Father, which got nominated a few years ago for the Oscar. It stars Hugh Jackman, Laura Dern. It looks like it could be promising, but it hasn't been getting the best reviews as of yet. So we'll see. Um, Oh, Chris Rowe. Hey, Chris. Uh, According to Chris, house party is those dudes throwing a party in LeBron's house. Okay, yeah, I have seen the trailer for that. Yeah, that looks kind of interesting. All right, next up, we have when you finish saving the world. What is this? This is an A24 movie starring Julianne Moore and Finn Wolfhard. Oh, it looks like it's Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut. That's really interesting. High school student Ziggy performs original folk rock songs for an adoring online fan base. This concept mystifies his formal and uptight mother, who runs a shelter for survivors of domestic abuse. Interesting. Sounds interesting. Uh we'll see how that one turns out. Let's see what else we got. We have Teen Wolf the movie for any Teen Wolf fans out there. Uh we have a sci-fi movie called Distant. And this one, I don't know. It's an original movie. And so because it's an original movie, I really hope that people go see it, but I know almost nothing about it. It's directed by Josh Gordon and Will Speck, um, who they directed like Lyle Lyle Crocodile and the Hit Monkey TV show and the Office Christmas Party. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. Let's see. I don't recognize the lead actor from anything. It's got the girl who played Jasmine from the live action Aladdin movie in it, and Spock from the remake of Star Trek, the new Star Trek movies. So that could be interesting. This says the spaceship of an asteroid miner gets stuck, crash landing him on an alien planet where he contends with his AI survival suit. Losing oxygen, he connects with a fellow crew member via radio, trapped inside her escape pod. Okay, that could be interesting. All right. Moving on, we have two movies that are going straight to streaming on January 27th. We have You People, which stars Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy, about a man who enters into it stars Jonah Hill entering an interracial relationship with Eddie Murphy's daughter and the cultural conflicts that ensue. I saw the trailer for this one. It looks really funny, and it's directed by the guy who created Blackish. So that has a lot of promise to it. It's going to be on Netflix on January 27th. On Amazon, Amazon Prime, January 27th, we have Shotgun Wedding, which is an action comedy with Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel, where their wedding gets like attacked by like terrorists or like hold on, let me actually read what the actual premise is. Darcy and Tom have a destination wedding, but suddenly everyone's lives are in danger when the entire party is taken hostage. I've seen the trailer. It looks like it could be a fun little romantic comedy. So we'll see. That same weekend, for those of you who like horror movies and surrealist movies, Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son, has a new movie coming out called Infinity Pool, which looks very weird. But if that's your thing, there you go. All right, moving on to February, we have kicking off that month a Knock at the Cabin, which is M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, starring Dave Bautista and Rupert Grint and Jonathan Groff. It looks really, really interesting. M. Night Shyamalan has been on a little bit of an upswing in recent years. I really enjoyed Glass. I did not like Old very much, so I'm very interested to see what his latest movie has to offer, especially because it's based on an acclaimed novel, A Knock at the Cabin at the End of the World, or The Cabin at the End of the World. Um, and so I'm interested to see what he's going to do with adapting something because in the past his adaptations have not been all that great. Um, though I don't know why they called it Knock at the Cabin instead of The Cabin at the End of the World, which is a much, much better title. That same first weekend, January 3rd, we're going to get Marlowe, which is another terrible title. Marlowe, for those of you who are unaware, is the last name of Philip Marlowe, who is a famous like noir detective from old noir detective novels. So like The Big Sleep, if you've ever heard of that movie, that's a Philip Marlowe novel. This is based off of a book called The Black Eyed Blonde, which is a much better title than Marlowe. I wish people would stop just naming movies after the main character if the main character doesn't have a super recognizable or interesting name. But I'm really interested in this. It has Liam Neeson as Marlowe, and it's very rare that we get like noir films anymore. It's written by the guy who wrote The Departed. It's directed by Neil Jordan, who's directed a bunch of really interesting movies in the past. Like he directed The Crying Game. So like I'm really interested to see how this movie turns out. I could see it being like fantastic. I could see it being not very good at all. So it's a bit of a toss up. February 10th, we have Magic Mike's Last Dance. I have no interest in that movie, but if you like the Magic Mike movies, there you go. Um, let's see. We have some straight to streaming movies, Sharper, starring Julianne Moore, and Your Place or Mine, starring Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. I don't know anything about those. And I have already looked over this list once, and those didn't stand out to me because I don't remember them. So, but there they are. The following weekend, we have our first big blockbuster of the year with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I wish I was more excited for this one, but sadly, I'm not really, because I just Ant-Man and the Wasp, I feel like the fun of it is, like, all of the shenanigans they get up to when they're really small or when they're really big. And how creative you can get with that, like, sci-fi concept of shrinking and growing. And this one, they're just, like, shrinking so far down, they're in the quantum realm, and they've basically made the quantum realm into, like, basically, like, an alien planet. Functionally, that's what it is. I know it's the quantum realm, it's really small, but, like, it has all these weird creatures and stuff. It might as well be like, an alien planet. And that's not as interesting to me as like the previous movies, which were just like really fun heist movies. I don't think it was a good direction to take the franchise in. But who knows? It could be good. I'll probably wind up seeing it. I think they should have made Ant-Man 3 into a kaiju movie. I think they should have had him and the Wasp and his daughter all blow up huge and like fight a Godzilla-like monster and just make it an even more silly version of Pacific Rim. I see two people in the chat say Barbie. Yes, we're getting to that. But I'm trying to do this in order, so if anyone ever wants to rewatch this during the year to see what they should watch, they can. Um, on February 24th, we have one of the more interesting looking movies of the year, Cocaine Bear, which is actually based on a true story of a bear who consumed a lot of cocaine and went nuts and killed a few people. It looks like the movie takes that and very much exaggerates it. But it looks just kind of nuts, very funny, very off the wall. I'm kind of excited. That same weekend, if you are a fan of independent Christian movies, we have Jesus Revolution. which is directed by the Irwin brothers, or actually just John Irwin. I think his brother is producing. I actually interviewed Andy Irwin, for the channel last year. Barely anyone watched the video, but if you're an aspiring filmmaker, I would highly, highly recommend checking that one out because he gave some really, really great advice on breaking into the industry. By doing your own thing. And like even if you hate Christian movies, which I really don't like most Christian movies, it's incredibly educational. The lessons that he has to impart. Anyway, but back to the movie itself. Jesus Revolution is based on this article that was in Time magazine chronicling this like sudden rise and like young hippies kind of discovering the gospels. And it actually looks kind of interesting. The Irwin brothers are the only people in the independent Christian movie scene other than Dallas Jenkins with The Chosen who actually make half decent movies. Like they're actual filmmakers who care about how the shots look and how the performances are. And they actually put effort in. You might still hate them, but I really appreciate the effort that they put into their movies. So I'm curious. I root for them every time they come out with a new movie. I really hope that it's going to be just fantastic. All right, cool. Next up, we have the month of March. Kicking off March, we have on March 3rd, Creed 3. I really was kind of hoping they wouldn't keep making Creed movies. Like I don't want them to wear it out like they did with Rocky. But Creed 2 was shockingly good. It was one of my favorite movies of that year. And so I'm kind of interested to see where Creed 3 goes, especially because it's like it's directed by Michael B. Jordan, first and foremost, so it's his directorial debut, and I'm also just intrigued to see where they're gonna take this. So, especially with if you haven't seen the trailer, it's Michael B. Jordan, Creed's has a childhood friend who got arrested and put in jail for a crime they committed together, and it's that guy kind of coming back for revenge. So I don't know. They've actually come up with some interesting emotional stakes there. Next up we have Scream 6. Scream 6. If you love the Scream movies, it's another Scream movie, and it's directed by the people who did Scream 5, which is by and far like one of the best sequels of that franchise. I am not a big fan of the Scream movies, but if you love a good slasher, you might be interested in that one. Now, moving on to March 17th, this is like my most anticipated weekend of the whole freaking year because first off, we have Shazam 2, Shazam Fury of the Gods, and I cannot wait for that movie. It just looks fantastic. And then that same weekend, from the creators of The Quiet Place, we get this movie called 65. And 65 is a movie about Adam Driver flying a spaceship accidentally through a wormhole that sends him back to prehistoric Earth, where he then has to survive. So it's just Adam Driver running around shooting dinosaurs from the people who made A Quiet Place. And if you don't want to see that movie, I don't know what's wrong with you. It sounds so cool, and it's an original movie. So please, please, please go and support that. It's March 17th. Um, March 24th, we have John Wick Chapter 4. Honestly, I was getting really sick of the John Wick movies, just because it's the same thing over and over again. John Wick shows up, he beats up a bunch of people, and that's really fun. But I do feel like there is only a certain number of times you can do that. Um, and so, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great time, so I'll be there. Oh, a friend, someone in the chat just said, "Where have you been all year? Miss your video essays." I came down with a horrible case of full-time employment. Turns out that when the whole world shuts down for a year and your channel is about movies, but no new movies come out, the algorithm just kind of abandons you. So I had to get a full-time job. And it's a job I really, really love. But it's kept me very busy. But I'm hoping to release more videos this year. I've already filmed a top 10 movies of the year list. Um, and as a part of that top 10 movies of the year list, sorry, I lost my train of thought because someone posted a question in the chat. I made a top 10 movies of the year list video. I just haven't gotten around to editing it. It's late as it always is, so I'm hoping to get that out soon. And I hope I can get a few videos out for you guys this year. Will you post this list somewhere? I'll probably put it in the comments. Or not in the comments, in the description, where everyone can find it, without my commentary, because I'm sure this is going to be way too long to just kind of sit around and watch. Um, Plus, who wants to watch me like interact with the chat? Maybe I should just ignore the chat, but we're here. All right. Next up, we have a movie that I'm very much looking forward to, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This looks super fun. I really, really, really want to check this one out. Um, it stars Chris Pine, and more importantly, it's directed by the people who did Game Night. And Game Night is by and far like the best comedy I've seen in years. It is so funny. And so I'm really hoping Dungeons and Dragons reaches that same level of hilarity. Um, it's funny when they first announced the movie, they were like, "Yeah, we're going for a funny vibe." And at the time, I had never played Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm like, "Why do they want to make everything funny? Not everything has to be like Guardians of the Galaxy or Marvel." And then I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I realized, oh, oh, Dungeons and Dragons is the goofiest, funniest time. Like I DM a campaign with some friends of mine, and it is just so much fun. Just all the goofy stuff we'll get up to. We're like, I come up with this dark, serious plot point, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna make my players cry. And then they come in and they come up with the funniest stuff. And at first I'll get a little irritated, like, guys, I worked hard on this, but then I wind up laughing so hard I don't even care. So Dungeons and Dragons. Cannot wait for that one. All right, moving on into April. At the beginning of April, we have the Super Mario Brothers movie. Uh, it's not sounding like Mario, but like Anya Taylor Joy doesn't sound like Princess Peach, or Charlie Day doesn't sound like Luigi, and like, so like, it's going to be just a children's movie, and I appreciate that at least Chris Pratt's like trying to do like a Mario voice instead of like Bob Hoskins in the original, who's like, I'm Mario, So I don't know. I think it looks fine. There is a movie called I'm gonna butcher how to pronounce this. I know how to pronounce it, but I'm gonna say it wrong. It's Chevier. I don't know. Anyway, it's about the famous musician Chevalier. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Uh, the trailer looks fine. It looks interesting. But I'm probably not going to see it. But again, like with this whole list, I'm really just going over everything I see that's like the littlest bit interesting, and just making a note of it. Because who knows, oh, this will be fun. There is a movie coming out, directed by the guy who did the Lego Batman movie, called Renfield, and it's about Count Dracula's lackey Renfield, who decides to quit, and it looks like it could be really funny. It has Nicholas Holt as Renfield. It has Nicholas Cage as Dracula. And if Nicholas Cage as Dracula doesn't sell you on it, like, I don't know what will. Like, that sounds like a fun time. Uh April 21st, for the horror fans here, we have Evil Dead Rise. It's the newest Evil Dead movie. Looks like it could be a good time. If you're a fan of the Evil Dead, I'm sure you'll love it. Oh wow, they are adapting "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." That's just a very, very famous young adult novel. So I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out. That has Rachel McAdams in it. Oh, it's directed by the lady who did Edge of 17. Oh, that okay, that sounds promising. That comes out April 28th. Um, What is this? There's a movie called Paint. I've never heard of this one before. Uh, it has Owen Wilson. Okay, that sounds like it could be fun. It's like a famous painter who everyone loves, and then a younger, better painter comes along and everyone becomes obsessed with that guy. And it's directed by Britt McAdams. Let's see, what has Britt McAdams done? Looks like he's just done a bunch of shorts. Oh, he worked on Tosh.0. Point oh. We'll see how that one is. Yeah, you know what? I like to give everything the benefit of the doubt. Paint, April 28th. Go see it. Original movie. Um, Now we are getting into our summer movie season with May. Uh, let's see. First up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I cannot wait for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That is by and far one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I'm dying to see that one. For obvious reasons. Let's see. May 12th, not really anything interesting. May 19th, we have Fast X, the latest Fast and Furious movie. That sounds interesting. May 28th, we have The Little Mermaid live action remake. If that sounds interesting to you, I'm sure you'll love it. I'm not going to be saying it. Now on to June. First and foremost, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on June 2nd. I cannot wait for this movie. Like, not only is it the sequel to like one of my favorite movies of recent years, it also like has a really interesting storyline, and it's written by the same people who wrote the first one, but like the directors they got for this one, it's a different set of directors, but it's a great set of directors. They have the co-director of Soul. They have Joaquin Dos Santos, who directed a lot of the best episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra and Justice League Unlimited, which was my favorite show growing up. So I'm pumped for that one. June 9th, we have Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. That, it looks kind of interesting. Like I was very done with the Transformers movies, but then they made Bumblebee, which actually felt like the Transformers I grew up with as a little kid. And this seems to be continuing in the continuity of Bumblebee. And it's directed by the guy who did Creed 2. And again, as I mentioned earlier, Creed 2 was a like huge surprise for me that I did not think was going to be very good. So you know what? I'm interested. That same weekend we have on June 9th Strays, which is an adult animated comedy starring Will Ferrell, and it sounds interesting. It's written by the guy who created American Vandal, which is a very, very funny show if you've ever heard of it. It's about an abandoned dog who teams up with other strays to get revenge on his former owner. Sounds like it could be a fun time. Oh, and it's produced by Lord and Miller. Okay, all right. That makes me officially excited. Anything Lord and Miller touches is amazing. All right, June 16th, we have the Flash movie. And I like look, the James Gunn has come in and has reset the DC universe, and that's a-okay. Um, but like I'm still kind of interested in this one because it's directed by the guy who directed It, which was really, really good. And it looks like they're playing with some really, really interesting concepts. A lot of people are saying they should just can it because of Ezra Miller's horrifying behavior this year, and I agree that Ezra Miller should never play the Flash again. But I don't think that the director and the writers and all of the other actors should be punished because of that one person's terrible behavior. I want to see the hard work of hundreds of people brought to the silver screen, and then please, please, please find someone who's not Ezra Miller to play the Flash, because Ezra Miller was never a good choice for the Flash, even before all the horrible stuff went down. So I'm still interested. Same weekend, June 16th, we have Elemental. That's the newest Pixar movie about like a water creature and a fire creature who fall in love. It looks like it could be really cute. Um, so we'll see. That same weekend, we have very good weekend. We have Asteroid City, which is Wes Anderson's new movie. And anytime Wes Anderson makes a movie, I sit up and pay attention. It's probably going to be at least very interesting, and it has some of my favorite actors in it. It's got Tom Hanks, who is my favorite actor, Steve Carell, Margot Robbie, Scarlett Johansson, Ed Norton. Like the list goes on and on and on. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to that one. And again, original movie, go support it. June 16th. Let's see, what is next? June 23rd, there's like a comedy movie called No Hard Feelings starring Jennifer Lawrence. And I've read up on this one a few times and I can't figure out what it's about. So that might be amazing. It might be terrible. I have no idea because I can't get like any info on it. Um, June 30th, we have the new Indiana Jones movie. Honestly, I really wish that they would have just stopped with Indiana Jones a long time ago. But I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like it's directed by James Mangold, the guy who did Logan, and that's just such a good movie. And it's never not going to be fun to see Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones, no matter how old he gets. Like, uh, I just really hope. Oh, and they brought Sala back, and that makes me so happy. I just really hope that Karen Allen at least gets like a cameo. I really hate it when like movies pretend the previous movie didn't happen. It's something I never liked about the original Indiana Jones movies. Is like Karen Allen as Marion Ravenwood was so great, and then she's just gone and replaced by two other not very good love interests. And so if they just never have his wife show up again, I'm gonna be sad. But it looks really, really good. That same weekend, we have Harold and the Purple Crayon. If you grew up reading that, we've got a Harold and the Purple Crayon movie now. So there you go. Last weekend of June. All right, moving into July, there's not a lot of movies coming out in July, but the movies that are coming out are astounding. First up, we have a new Insidious movie for those horror fans out there. That's July 7th. On July 14th, we have by and far one of my most anticipated movies of the year. We have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I cannot wait for this movie. They've already released all of these like featurettes showing off this insane bicycle stunt that Tom Cruise did. I love that this franchise has just become Tom Cruise trying as hard as he can to kill himself on camera. It's thrilling, all of these live stunts that they do in this franchise. It's just insane. It's got a great cast. It's got Tom Cruise, the usual suspects of Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg, but they've added this time around Haley Atwell's in it. Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy's in it. So it looks like it's going to be a good time. I cannot wait. The following weekend is the biggest weekend of the year for most cinephiles. Uh, and we get both Oppenheimer and Barbie. And I can't wait for both of these. Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's next movie, and it's about Robert J. Oppenheimer, the guy who invented the atomic bomb, and the trailers for it look really interesting. He's going to use Christopher Nolan invented a black and white IMAX film specifically for this movie because he wanted to return to what he did with Memento, where he kind of experimented with having certain time periods being in black and white and certain timelines being in color and using that as a visual signal. And I'm really interested to see him play with that again. I just really hope that the sound design isn't terrible. But yeah, we'll see. And then that same weekend we have Greta Gerwig's new movie Barbie, and this like between these two movies every single actor in Hollywood has been recruited. For Oppenheimer, we have Killian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Rami Malek, Florence Pugh, Benny Sadfi, Josh Hartnett, Kenneth Branagh, Dane DeHaan, Josh Peck, and Alden Ehrenreich. And then, like for Barbie, we have Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Will Ferrell, Simu Liu, America Ferrera, Kate McKinnon, Michael Cera, Issa Rae. Like it's insane the amount of actors who lined up to be in both of these movies. And Barbie, like usually I'd be like, like when they announced Barbie, I was like, what? Ew, no. Why would you want a live action Barbie movie? But Noah Baumbach, the guy who wrote Marriage Story, wrote the screenplay for it, and Greta Gerwig, his partner, who did Little Women and Lady Bird, is directing, and she's a cinematic genius. So I am intrigued to see what on earth they came up with. The trailer looks amazing. So that is July 21st. Go check those out. July 28th, we have The Marvels. This is technically the sequel to Captain Marvel. And I'm intrigued. I wasn't a huge fan of Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel was just it was just very lackluster. There wasn't a lot to it. I felt I really hate all of the hate that Brie Larson has gotten because of that movie, but I do think the way she was directed was very stiff. But this movie is directed by Nia DaCosta. She's the lady who did the Candyman movie. And she is a very, very promising director. And it's written by one of the writers of WandaVision. And WandaVision was a very well written show. So I'm really hoping that maybe they can bring this one together a little bit better and make a more cohesive movie. I like all the actors involved. Brie Larson. I've seen her in other things where she's been incredibly fun, and she's a very good actress. I feel she just was misdirected in the first movie. And then we have Ms. Marvel from the Ms. Marvel show, and that actress, Iman let's see. Sorry, I misread it. Iman Vellani. She is such a wonderful actress, just a delight on screen. And I love the actress they got for Monica Rambeau, who played her, Tiana Paris, who played her in WandaVision. I thought that actress was really, really good. So like I'm really intrigued to see where they go with this. I'm really kind of burnt out on Marvel, but that one it's got potential. We'll put it that way. All right, moving into August. This is where Hollywood usually dumps their less than great summer blockbusters. So we'll see if that continues this year. We have an animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie on August 4th. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, there you go. They made a sequel to The Meg. Meg to the Trench. That's the movie about the giant megalodon shark. Oh my gosh, Ben Wheatley directed this? Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar, Ben Wheatley is like a critical darling of a director. Like he directed uh oh gosh, what has he made? He made High Rise, Free Fire, Down Terrace, A Field in England. Um and I guess this makes sense because he's done a bunch of kind of elevated horror movies. So I guess it makes sense that he would tackle a movie like this, especially if they're trying to go in a little bit more of a horror direction with it. So okay. I'm a little intrigued now. We'll see how that one goes. Um Walt Disney is coming out with a Haunted Mansion movie, which I'm very disappointed um, that we're getting this movie because Guillermo del Toro wanted to make this, and they turned him down because they thought it was too dark. And I want to see what Guillermo del Toro would have done with a Haunted Mansion movie. Like, holy crap, that would have been so cool. And so because it's not him and it's Disney, I'm really pretty scared that it's just going to be like like most of their recent live action content, where like none of it feels like real movies. It's all very kind of rubbery and fake looking with very flat lighting and not a lot of artistic intent put into it. Um, and it's written by Kate Dippold, who wrote The Heat and the Ghostbusters reboot, the Melissa McCarthy Ghostbusters movie, and that's just not a very great track record. But on the other hand, it's directed by the guy who directed Dear Black People, or sorry, not Dear Black People. Oh my god, Dear White People, and that that's that's a critically acclaimed movie, like, that won the jury award at, like, Sundance. So, I don't know, like, the writer doesn't seem promising, the director seems very promising. We'll see how that turns out. That same weekend, August 11th, we have The Last Voyage of the Demeter. This is a really interesting idea for a movie. It's based on the very small section of Dracula where basically they load up, Dracula gets loaded up onto a boat, and then, like, several months later, a boat drifts into port and everyone's dead on it. And so it's about, Dracula killing a bunch of people on a boat, basically, is what it's about. Um, which on one hand, I think that's a really good idea for a movie, but on the other hand, I feel like I'm not sure where you can go with that. Like, I feel like that concept runs out of runway very quickly. Like, it's just like, "Oh, someone gets killed by Dracula, someone else gets killed by Dracula, someone else gets killed by Dracula," and then the movie ends when they're all killed by Dracula, the end, I don't know if there's enough material to work with there. But it is directed by, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. It's a Norwegian name. It's Andre Overdahl. Overdahl. He's the guy who directed Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was a shockingly good movie. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Troll Hunter. He's a very interesting horror director. So I'm really intrigued to see where it goes. Um, that same weekend is Gran Turismo, which is based on the video game, but it's not like about the video game. Instead, it's based on a true story of a teenager who plays Gran Turismo and then applies uh, his skills that he learns while playing Gran Turismo into becoming a real race car driver, which is really interesting. And it's directed by Neil Blomkamp, of all people, the guy who did District 9. So that alone makes me interested, but we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. Again, that same weekend, we have a movie called Challengers. It's directed by, Lord, I can't pronounce any of these people's names. Luca Guadagnini, Guadagni, the guy who did Call Me by Your Name, that dude. Um, I'm not a huge fan of this director. It's got Zendaya in it, so the guy who did Call Me by Your Name plus Zendaya, that's going to attract a lot of people. Um, it's about the wife and coach of a famed tennis player in the middle of a losing streak signs him up for a challenger event where they discover he will compete against his wife's former lover. So that's I don't know, like, that description alone doesn't really speak to me, but I don't know. He's an interesting director. So I'm in we'll see how it turns out. The next weekend we have on August 18th Blue Beetle. They made a Beetle movie, and I'm really, really interested to see how that turns out. Because I love that character. Um, and then there's a Blumhouse movie coming out the following weekend on August 25th called They Listen. I don't know anything else about the movie other than that's the title. And oh, wow. And it's directed by the guy who did The Golden Compass and Twilight New Moon. Interesting. We'll have to see how that turns out. It has Catherine Waterston and John Cho in it. And the plot is currently under wraps, this says. So, you know, Blumhouse oftentimes cranks out really good stuff and allows directors who have been stifled by overly controlling studios to kind of spread their wings. So, yeah, we'll see how that turns out. All right, finally, let's move into September. I need to stop reading off every single one of these. I'm not reading off literally every single one. I'm just reading off way too many of them. I need to read off only the ones I think look interesting because that's kind of the point of this video is me like recommending to people. But I don't know. I like giving most movies the benefit of the doubt, you know? Someone in the chat said the Dracula on a boat sounds a lot like Alien. That's a good point. So that you know what? That got me more on board than anything I've seen on the movie yet. All right, September 1st, we have the third Equalizer movie. And on September 8th, we've got the second The Nun movie. I'm not particularly interested in either of these, but if you like those franchises, there you go. September 15th, we have A Haunting in Venice. This is the latest, I think, in yeah. This is the latest Hercule Poirot movie by Kenneth Branagh. So a sequel to Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. I wasn't a big fan of Murder on the Orient Express, but I did really enjoy Death on the Nile. So I am visit a hunting in Venice. I am game. We'll see how that turns out. September 22nd, we have The Expendables 4. They made another one? Why? Okay. Oh man, and it's directed by the guy who did Act of Valor. Wow, I haven't heard from that guy in forever. That'll be interesting. I feel like the Expendables movies are kind of a wasted opportunity. I feel like they're over the top, but they're not over the top enough, you know? Like all of them are just like a bunch of old guys running around and like shooting a bunch of people. But I want it to be even more over the top than that. I want it to be like 300, like Zack Snyder levels of over the top, where like, Sylvester Stallone comes out with like a machine gun and just kills like 1,000 people. Like I want it to go so far above and beyond the Call of Duty, you know? Uh, in that same weekend, September 22nd, an original movie I highly suggest you support. It's called Next Goal Wins. It's Taika Waititi's next movie. It's a comedy drama about a football team, and by football I mean soccer. If you live here in the U.S., it stars Michael Fassbender. Look, I was not a fan of Thor: Love and Thunder, but like people in online movie discourse have this really bad habit of they will be like, "Oh, this guy made one bad movie. He's terrible." And like, no, like just because you didn't like one movie doesn't invalidate everything else they've done. And Taika Waititi has made so many hilarious movies. I think he might have just not been the best fit for Thor specifically. And I don't think his heart was in that movie. But I'm down for a new original Taika Waititi comedy. So that's September 22nd. Go see it. It's an original movie. Support original cinema. All right, moving on to October. Uh, we have Craven the Hunter. I have no interest in Craven the Hunter at all. Please stop making villain movies. They're always bad. The only reason I'm the littlest bit intrigued by this movie is because it is directed by J.C. Chandor, who's the guy who directed All Is Lost. And he is another one of these directors who's a bit of a critical darling. And so it's always very interesting to me when you get a director who's just critically acclaimed, and then you give them like this like kind of stale corporate product. And I'm always like, okay, all right, are you going to be able to take this thing and make it into something interesting? We'll see. We'll see. Uh, that same weekend is one of my most anticipated movies of the year is a movie called True Love. The plot is mostly being kept under wraps right now. We don't know what it's about, but it's directed by the guy who did Godzilla and Rogue One. And he somehow directed like two insanely successful franchise movies and has not made a movie since. And I have been just really just waiting to see what on earth this guy would make with the cachet he got from those movies. It stars John David Washington from Tenet, Gemma Chan from Eternals, Allison Janney, who's one of my favorite actresses, and Kim Watanabe, who's one of my favorite actors. And it's a sci-fi movie. That's all we know. But just those people together making an original sci-fi movie really excites me. Um, October 13th, we have an Exorcist movie by the guy who made the new Halloween movies. I didn't really like those movies. I don't really want to see another Exorcist movie. But if that sounds interesting to you, there you go. By that exact same token, October 27th, we get Saw 10 for some reason. But if you like the Saw movies, there you go. All right, moving on to November. November 3rd, another one of my most anticipated movies of the year is Dune Part 2. I needed this movie yesterday. Give it to me now. The first movie was so good. And so I weirdly enough, when I was reading Dune, I just kind of stopped reading it. And where I stopped reading it was exactly where the first movie ends. So I'm really intrigued to watch Dune 2, where I don't know what's going to happen, see what on earth happens in that movie. Sadly, because it's such a classic property, I keep seeing people posting about it online where they're like, oh, yeah, that part where so and so gets, transformed into a giant frog. And I'm like, what? Why would you say that? And so I've been trying to avoid spoilers, but it looks really, really, really good. And they've added Florence Pugh and Christopher Walken and Lea Seydoux to the cast, and like I was already excited, but now I'm all the way on board. November 13th, we have another Hunger Games movie for some stupid reason. And worse, it's a prequel. And prequels are always, always bad, except for Better Call Saul. That's the only good one. But other than that, like they're always just why? Why have you made another Hunger Games movie? The only reason I bring it up is because I oftentimes will see Hollywood make a really stupid sequel or prequel, and then it will surprise me. Like this time last year, I was like, they're making a Top Gun 2? Why? Why would you do that? And it was one of my favorite movies of the year. So I'm not going to count it out on the chance that it's amazing. All right, moving on. There's a new animated Disney movie called Wish. I don't know what it's about, but it's coming out, and that makes me excited. Um, Moving into December, we have Wonka, which again is a prequel about Willy Wonka for some reason. I am so very uninterested in this movie. But like so many movies on this list, Paul King, an interesting director, the guy who did the Paddington movies, is making it. And it's like, well, if you get a really good director and put him on it, maybe it might be good. Who knows? Um, so yeah. Uh they also are remaking The Color Purple. So I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. That's interesting. Could be good. Um and that's December 27th. They're making another Ghostbusters movie. Not really interested at all. What is this? There's some Illumination movie called Migration. Not a big Illumination fan, so not really interested. That's December 22nd. And then December 25th, we have Aquaman 2, which I feel very bad for James Wan because he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna keep doing the super cool thing I was doing with Aquaman, where I'm making these movies about underwater, battles and stuff. And like, This year we had Black Panther 2 with Namor, which was really good, and then we had Avatar: Way of Water. So, like, anything Aquaman 2 is gonna do is probably gonna be overshadowed by Avatar. So I feel kinda bad for James Wan. But, I'm hoping it's good. I enjoyed the first one. It wasn't great, but, who knows? Maybe this one will be even better. And, that's everything that is coming out in 2023, that I think looks even remotely interesting. Now granted, it's this list is going to change quite a bit. A lot of these movies will be pushed to next year. Movies I didn't even know were coming out and haven't been announced yet will come out. Um, these movies will shift around, so if some of this info is outdated a few months from now, don't sue me. Um, and don't laugh at me if some of these movies that I thought were bad turned out to be great, or movies I thought were going to be great turned out to be horrible. It's really hard to figure that stuff out from just reading a few sentences on Wikipedia or IMDb. Um, but those are the movies I am really interested in watching. Uh, Probably my most anticipated, we will just say most anticipated are 65 is probably my most anticipated because it just looks so fun. Um, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible 2, or Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, part 1 is what I mean to say. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, um, True Love, and Dune Part 2. Those are my most anticipated movies of the year. But, what are yours? Feel free to comment below or, uh, in the, chat. Uh, let's see. We had someone in the chat say, "I thought Ghostbusters was over after Afterlife." I thought so as well. Um, Oh, very good point. Okay, someone said, The Killer is coming out this year. The Killer or, I think it's The Killer or The Killing, is David Fincher's new movie. I think it is scheduled to come out this year. I just don't think it's been announced when. Just sometime this year. I'm very glad you mentioned that. I totally forgot about that movie. And it wasn't on the list I was looking at, the schedule for the year. So, but David Fincher is coming out with a new movie, starring Michael Fassbender, and that makes me excited because I love Michael Fassbender and I love David Fincher. So that'll be really interesting. Um, and I'm sure there's going to be some really good foreign movies coming out this year too. The problem is, like, for me to look into foreign movies, uh, everywhere that people are, like, talking about foreign movies and when they're gonna be coming out, they're talking about when they're coming out in those countries. I have no idea when they're coming here, when I'll have the ability to see them. Like, for instance, the guy who did Your Name, which is one of my favorite animated movies of all time, he's making another movie. It's supposed to come out at some point this year. I don't know when. I don't know when I'll be able to see that. It might come out this year, it might come out next year. It may have already come out and it just flew under my radar because oftentimes foreign movies aren't given wide releases. So if that one comes out this year, very, very excited for it. Um, so yeah, that's basically all I had. Just there's all of the cool movies coming out this year. What are some of you guys' favorites? Feel free to comment and let me know. And I think I may end the stream there unless anyone's got any thoughts in the chat that they'd like to discuss. So going once, going twice. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining me this evening. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to end the stream there and we will hopefully talk soon. I'll be having a top 10 movies of the year list that'll be coming out here fairly soon. Uh, so yeah, have a happy new year, guys, and hopefully later this year I'll be talking about some of these movies with you guys. So, bye.